Hey guys, welcome to Denny's. Today we're going to be going over the build I'll be using for Thundercage in Season 2. More specifically, we're going to take a look at two separate builds of the Thundercage, one kind of all-rounder build and one that I'm going to be using for Bunny. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more First Descendant content. Let's jump right into the video. Alright, and first and foremost, I would like to quickly go over the unique ability and its stats for Thundercage. Now, don't forget to use timestamps for anybody who wants to skip this section and just go to the builds and explanation, but we're going to go over the unique ability. So basically, Overcharge is Thundercage's unique ability. When defeating an enemy, the defeated enemy has a set chance to discharge Electric Shockwave, which deals additional damage to nearby enemies. So with a fully upgraded Thundercage, it's 100% trigger rate with a 200% AoE circle compared to your firearm damage. It's very, very good. When it's just one, or when it's just zero, and it's just the gun with no upgrades, you get a 60% trigger rate with a decent chunk of damage. So it's a very good unique ability. It's one of the best in the game. It's one of the most satisfying to use as well, just because when you shoot, it has a giant explosion and it does a lot of damage. Now, as far as the stats, another reason that the Thundercage is one of the best weapons in the game is going to be because of its critical hit rate and its critical hit damage. So if we take a look at the firearm critical hit rate, the base stat is 20%. It's one of the highest in the game. Most weapons are anywhere from 5 to 15%. There are a few at 20%, but Thundercage is one of the few. The only reason why it's so good is because on top of that, it has the highest, or one of the highest, firearm critical hit damage levels base stat in the game as well at 2x. So while other guns have anywhere from 1 to 1.75x, this is a 2x critical hit damage. So not only is it the best crit hit rate, but it's also the best crit hit damage, and it makes it a very good synergistic gun for the critical hit rate and damage stat, obviously. Now, as far as weak point damage, it has a base stat of 1.2. It's not the best in the game, but the fact that this even has a weak point damage above 1 is pretty awesome because it already has such a strong suit in the critical hit rate and damage factor. So keep these in mind as we go into the builds and kind of discuss why I use what mods I use. But we're going to jump into the two builds now while we enjoy some gameplay in the background. All right, so build number 1. This build is going to be a all-rounder, so it's not going to be the one I use on Bunny, just straight up going to be what I use pretty much all the time for Thundercage, unless I'm playing Glay or Bunny. So I'm going to go from top to bottom, left to right, and we will go over each and every single mod and why I'm using it. And for anybody who just wants the screenshot of the mod, don't forget I have them on screen right now. For the concentration priority, we are using that because it gives you such a giant amount of firearm critical hit damage. Yes, it gives you minus 30% on the reload time modifier, but the fact that it gives you 120% firearm critical hit damage, it takes us from a base rate of 2 all the way to 4 on the Thundercage, which is absolutely absurd. You're just doing 200% more damage, basically. It's just crazy. Next up, we've got action and reaction. That's going to be firearm ATK, 61%. No need to worry about recoil if you're on PC. If you are on console, I mean, it's totally up to you. If you want to take this, you can take one of the other ones that give firearm ATK. It's a Malachite Slocket as well, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. Rifling reinforcement doesn't really need an explanation. More firearm ATK. Then we've got better concentration. Better concentration is our critical hit damage. 75% is a lot on top of the 120% we already have. Obviously, it's just going to give us a giant amount of crit. We are trying to stack as much crit hit damage as we can. Expand weapon charge. Now, the Thundercage does have kind of a smaller clip, so expand weapon charge is actually quite nice on Thundercage, especially when you pair it with that reload time modifier that we lost earlier. Having to reload less is always a plus, so expand weapon charge is definitely imperative in my opinion. Next up, we've got fire rate up. It doesn't really need much of an explanation either. 25% damage quicker, obviously just really, really good. If you do all of your damage 25% faster, yeah, it's just automatically one of the best mods in the game, if not the best for all guns pretty much. Insight focus, building off of the firearm critical hit rate and damage. Now, some people take edging shot here. I prefer insight focus because edging shot gives you minus 15% on the firearm ATK. It's such a large amount for the only 4% extra crit that we're getting base. And the critical hit damage you get here adds like 20% damage, which is really nice to each crit. That's quite a big chunk of damage. So yeah, insight focus is what I will choose there. And then obviously better insight for the critical hit rate, even more critical hit rate. So gets our firearm critical hit rate up from 20% all the way to 30.7% using these two mods. Insight focus and better insight. Then we are using weak point sight. Mainly, I'm using this mainly because it's just all around good. Obviously, weak point sight doesn't actually affect the sheet DPS. However, it's just straight up as much damage as we can get on the gun itself. There's nothing else that's really going to be that good. If you do not hit weak points a lot, you can run something like electric enhancement or any kind of enhancement here. It will be a very solid addition as well. However, if you do hit weak point, this is just insane because obviously weak point starts off at 1.2x and we're getting it up to 1.6 with this. So yeah, well, we're not only getting it up to 1.6, we're actually getting it to 1.62, but you know, small numbers matter. Anyway, the ultimate mod we're going to be using here is the sweeping squad. Now this mod is basically perfect for Thundercage because as soon as you get a kill, you're typically going to get 1 to 3 kills because of the explosion, and you're automatically going to stack this up on your first kill, and you're going to get a nice 33% basically of your firearm ATK, which is a giant amount. Firearm ATK is like the base stat everything works off of, so best ultimate mod in my opinion. I will briefly speak about the ultimate mods that came out, but that'll be towards the end of the video after I'm done with the second build here, so keep that in mind. But yeah, that's the entire build for the all-rounder for Thundercage. It is a beast of a weapon, and it's still absolutely one of the most viable weapons in the game, if not the most viable weapon in the game. So we'll hop over to the bunny portion now for my bunny enjoyers. All right, so jumping into the bunny build, I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time going over every single mod again, because what we have here is we see literally every single mod is the exact same. The only one we change is basically the sweeping squad. We swap sweeping squad out for brisk walk. If you didn't know, brisk walk, basically on hit movement speed plus 10% for 5 seconds. So every time that you hit an enemy, or I believe it's you hit an enemy, I can't remember if it's you hit an enemy or get hit. Either way, you're getting hit a lot and you're hitting enemies a lot. I believe it's when you hit an enemy. You get 10% movement speed for 5 seconds. You have a 10-second downtime on that because the cooldown is 15 seconds. With Bunny, it's kind of a no-brainer because we are sprinting as much as we can, and whenever we want to mob clear other than that and just do damage, we're going to obviously be shooting Thundercage, so we're not really going to be utilizing Sweeping Squad a whole ton. But you know, obviously you can run the Sweeping Squad version on Bunny if you're not too worried about the movement speed. I just love being as fast as I can be on Bunny. You can also pair this up on Bunny with using like 2 other guns with brisk walk, and believe it or not, there's actually no downtime. So how this works is you literally just socket brisk walk onto every other gun that you're using if you want to throw in like a general rounds weapon or whatever you have, and then you just swap to the weapon that it hasn't procced on in the last 15 seconds. You'll actually have 100% uptime on brisk walk, and that is going to be the Bunny build. Again, it's literally one change, so I don't want to spend too much time on it. But yeah, that is the most common, best gun in the game, in my opinion. I briefly want to talk about some of the ultimate mods that came out for Season 2 and why we won't be using them. So firstly, I'd like to talk about the circulation mods. So circulation mods, basically upon inflicting a ailment or debuff of a specific type, you increase your damage of that type by like 90% for 5 seconds with a 20-second cooldown. So that means there's a 15-second downtime. So if we do some quick math, when you have 90% basically uptime, yes, it is right around double what the typical enhancement mod is going to give you. The typical enhancement mod is going to give you right around 35% or 30%, I believe, to the weapon. It's 30% exactly, actually. That's going to basically give you 90%, so it's right around triple. However, with the cooldown, you're getting the uptime a quarter of the time. So if we take 90% and cut it into quarters, obviously it's automatically less damage overall than the enhancement mods, which is why I believe the circulation mods are just not very lucrative, I guess. I mean, they can be good in their own way. If you want to do really quick burst, if you have like electric on your weapon already, or fire or whatever, you're definitely not going to, you know, worry as much about this because you're already doing the damage. It does take, you know, it does require you to inflict the ailment, but it's just not worth it in my opinion. Because of the roles that we do take on this weapon, we're not really getting a lot of enhancement anywhere. You can run enhancement again if you want to synergize this, but I just don't think the circulation mods are worth it. As far as the other ultimate mods, obviously there's no other mods other than Ultra Precision Strike. That thing just isn't good. I mean, it literally gives you a weak point damage that's the same as real life fighter, so I'm not going to be using Ultra Precision Strike. But that is pretty much the yeah, the kind of the wrap up for the new mods that came out for season 2 and why we're not using them. Unfortunately, wish I would be saying that we are using them, guys. Trust me, I wish that we could be. However, it's just not the smartest move considering all the mods already in the game and kind of how everything synergizes together. But you absolutely can create your own build. Keep that in mind. Huge disclaimer: you can create your own build, play how you want to play, synergize those mods together, and I'm sure you'll get marginal differences in the damage just because of how the game works. You can enjoy it how you want to play it for sure. All right, and then let's quickly go over the weapon rolls for the Thundercage that we're going to be going for. So the weapon rolls are the 4 stats that you see on the weapon whenever you hover it. Now, it does require the material, the access control to actually upgrade the Thundercage. So keep that in mind. You don't typically want to waste a lot of these unless you know what you want. So I'm going to give you guys a good idea of what you're going to be wanting for Thundercage. For the first stat, I always go for Firearm ATK. These are going to be in priority, by the way, from left to right, or I guess however you think of that. But in priority, I always go for Firearm ATK basically on every single gun. With the Thundercage, next up, we're going to be going for Firearm critical hit damage. Obviously, that plays into our critical hit damage that the gun gives us. It's just absurd. And then we go for Firearm critical hit rate, again, because we want to get as many crits as we can. Obviously, playing with critical hit rate and damage, it's a perfect synergy. You have to go they have to go hand in hand whenever you roll them. And then the final roll we're going to use on Thundercage is going to be weak point damage. You can change weak point damage for something like electric enhancement or fire enhancement, or if you want to inflict any kind of ailments on them, you can absolutely do that. Obviously, electric reduces the defense, if people didn't know that, etc. But yeah, that's what we're going to be running for the Thundercage, again, just because of these synergies with the critical hit damage and a little bit of weak point damage, to get as much damage as we can for the Thundercage on the 4 stat rolls. But other than that, let me know what you guys think of Thundercage down below in the comments. Do you guys still use it? Have you completely dropped it for a new weapon? Or do you still use it as one of your main weapons in your arsenal? Personally, I use it quite a bit. However, I have started to use other weapons because obviously Thundercage, as fun as it is, it can be fun to pick up other weapons and enjoy the game in different ways. But yeah, definitely let me know down in the comments about the Thundercage. And don't forget to leave a like if the video helped you out. If you do want to support a bit further, I do have a Patreon linked in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe if you feel that I've earned it. And I hope you guys have a great day, night, wherever you're at. But I'm out of here, guys. Peace out. Goodbye.